All right, everyone. It's January 6th, 2025. We're here again with another episode of the He Said, She Said Sports Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Big Red, along with my lovely host, Tony. There's a lot of big news going on this weekend, especially in the NFL. There were some big games yesterday. Detroit and Minnesota for the number one seed. Detroit won that game 31-9. In what seemed to be a pretty much blowout. They played well defensively, ran the ball well with Jamar Gibbs. But yeah, they got the number one seed and they get the bye. And Minnesota will play an away game against the Rams on Monday night. So yeah, definitely a busy week. How are you, Tony?
I'm really good. Week 18 proved to be cinema that we didn't expect, I feel like. The games that kind of were flying under the radar for me were the ones that were the most entertaining. And then that Lions-Vikings game, which I thought was going to be, an incredible matchup and the game of the week, um, was a blowout, as you said. If you want to start with the Lions and Vikings, I think we can definitely hit on that. It was a really interesting game, especially after all the conversation about Sam Darnold, how good he is, and the
Yeah,
Lions defense absolutely able to corral him. I'm gonna take a moment right off the bat to commend Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Lions. He has done
yes.
some incredible things. Also, Alex Anzalone proved to be exactly what the Lions defense needed to kickstart them back into gear and get them back on track. And Amik Robertson, the secret sleeper, he
Yeah,
covered Justin Jefferson all night. He did a phenomenal job.
definitely
And
did.
it was really nice to see them match up again because haven't seen it since they were in college together. He was
Yeah.
at Louisiana Tech and Justin Jefferson at LSU.
LSU, yeah.
So that matchup was nice to see.
And they kind of went against each other in high school too, a little
Yeah.
bit too. Yeah.
Yeah, and Amik Robertson did a phenomenal job covering him all night long. But Aaron Glenn, some of the changes that he made on the defensive end that I thought were really interesting. The Lions are a big man coverage team. They play a lot of man coverage, but mostly they play cover one man. And a change that he made is I noticed that they were playing a lot more cover two man. And basically the struggle with cover two man is containing that QB run. And I thought that the rush pretty much corralled Sam Darnold all night. So they were able to play that cover two man. And that was, I think, the biggest change that had the biggest effect on slowing the Vikings down and corralling their offense.
Yeah, because they were definitely able to get pressure on Sam Darnold. He definitely didn't look the same. It's like night and day from the week before, them having him on his shoulders, celebrating, and then now to just having a bad game and having to go to play a playoff away game.
Yeah, he missed Justin Jefferson high, wide a couple of times.
Yeah,
Definitely balls that he should have had and should have made, but he was getting a lot of pressure. So
yeah,
interesting to note also, haven't seen Sam Darnold in a playoff game, and I do think this was the most playoff-like game he's ever been in. And he
100%.
did go just a little bit pumpkin mode. So it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see him go on the road to LA and play a
And
best.
that's not going to be an easy game. The Rams are definitely a tough team. Stafford and them boys are going to be ready. So they were well rested on the sidelines last week. So they're going to be ready to go in the home game out there in SoFi. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that for sure.
The
But yeah,
game, the game that turned into an absolute showdown, though, that Panthers Falcons game, and the Panthers and Bryce Young eliminating the Falcons from contention. That
yeah,
was a crazy overtime game. Panthers ended up winning it 44-38, high scoring game.
uh-huh,
And two young quarterbacks, Bryce Young and Michael Penix Jr., I think they both looked fantastic in a
yes.
lot of spots. And I think both teams have found their guys. And that's
Yeah, I definitely think that everybody was so worried about Bryce Young year one. He's definitely solidified himself for the Panthers, at least, moving on with him for the future so they can go elsewhere as far as the draft goes. Um, yeah, definitely the Falcons got eliminated, so that put Tampa Bay winning the NFC South. They're the champs of the NFC South. They beat the Saints 27-19. Mike Evans, 11 straight years with 1,000 yards, tying Jerry Rice record, So
Yeah.
congratulations to him on that. That's
I was so glad that they got him that ball when Bucky
yes.
ran in for that touchdown.
If they wouldn't have
I
got him the ball, I would have been so mad.
I was panicked. I mean, honestly, probably a stupid decision on the coaching staff's part to let them run a play there
Like, yeah,
because that's super dangerous. So it's
yeah,
not like they were
definitely.
up by a ton. But thank God they did because Mike Evans deserves it.
Yeah, he deserves it.
I champion him every year. That man is a workhorse. 11 straight seasons with 1,000 yards. That's
Future Hall of Famer for sure.
future Hall of Famer for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we always got to give your team some love. They ended up winning the game, but they didn't get enough help to get into the playoffs. Denver ended up winning yesterday, blowing out the Chiefs 38-0. Carson Wentz got the start. They obviously weren't the same without Pat Mahomes in there, but no, your boy Jamar Chase definitely got the triple crown, and Joe Burrow led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. So, solid season to look forward to in the future. They
Don't
got
forget Trey Hendrickson. Don't forget
yeah, leading the league in sacks. Yeah,
17
for
and a
sure.
half sacks for the season. Uh,
Yeah, leading the league. Yeah,
Leading the league and an incredible glue and a baseline for a defense that is going to be revamped, rebuilt, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, some of the coaching changes. But yeah, the Bengals, they did what they had to do this week, and they beat a Steelers team that is limping into the playoffs on a
yeah,
four-game skid. They do not look like the same team that clinched a playoff spot earlier this season. The Bengals missing the playoffs. I mean, we can sit here and talk about how the Chiefs rolled over and did not play
yeah. They
the game
definitely
at
didn't
all.
help. They didn't want the Bengals in there. They're scared of the Bengals
And
this
I'm
year.
not going to be that person that sits here and says, "Oh, the Chiefs are scared of the Bengals. The Chiefs are scared of the
I
Bengals."
will do it for you.
But
Don't worry. I'll do it
38
for
to
you.
0, I think was a statement on their
Yeah.
part. I do. Um,
No,
trying to
I
gather
agree.
my thoughts on this one here, Big Red. But yes, I do think the Bengals put themselves in that situation. You know, it's one thing to start out slow. It's one thing to
Hmm.
lose games that you should be winning early in the season. They put themselves there. But going through November and not, winning enough games, that's really where the season being 4-8,
Yeah,
that's you can't do that. You just
yeah,
can't.
definitely.
You see, I can't even gather my thoughts about my
Yeah,
own
yeah,
team. Every other team, I have very, very cohesive thoughts on. This team, how do you have the passing leader, the Triple Crown winner, the leader in sacks, and you
facts.
the playoffs? I
Yeah,
You win that game, that season opener against the Patriots, and you win one of those other one score winnable games, one of
close
the
games.
games against the Ravens,
Yep.
um, you know, not missing those field goals against the Chargers, the PI call against the Chiefs, one of those games, right? That
Hmm.
came down to that one score and win your season opener. And it's a different team. You're an 11 win team. You're
Yeah,
in the playoffs strongly in the playoffs.
definitely.
And you're a division contender. Very, very different scenario if they just win one or two of those games earlier in the season. And I think they'll be making a lot of changes in the off season that will ensure that we don't start the season slow the next time.
Yeah, yes, for sure. I
It's really
agree.
important. And I think that Joe and Jamar are really pushing for that core three, Joe, Jamar, T. Higgins.
T.
I think they
Higgins,
all
yeah,
want to stay together. I'm hoping that the front office is able to get it done because it does seem like a want for them.
definitely. Yeah,
And if they can get in a room and if they can't get those two guys on contract.
yeah. Higgins is a fan favorite for sure too. So yeah, the fans would definitely love to see him stay in Cincinnati.
Yeah, you could
Oh,
see the difference when he's on the field.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he absolutely makes an impact. So it'd be nice. It'd be nice to keep him, restructure a couple of contracts, move some people around, cut some people, and then, make some big moves in the draft if we can.
Yeah, and possibly free agency as well.
Exactly.
But yeah, now that all the games are done in the regular season, we got the wild card games and all the matchups are set. This Saturday at 4:30, we got the Chargers at the Texans, and we have Pittsburgh at the Ravens at 8 o'clock. Both of those games will be on Saturday. What do you like about those matchups, and who do you see moving on in those two matchups?
So I'm definitely excited to see the Chargers and Justin Herbert go on the road. Justin Herbert is an incredible quarterback, and the one thing that he doesn't have is a playoff win. And I think having a playoff win will take his name from being just outside those top four guys, top five guys, to solidifying and cementing himself as a top five quarterback in the NFL. They absolutely need a playoff win. I
Yeah, he
think
definitely needs a playoff win.
Jim
Yeah,
Harbaugh has completely changed the way that that team operates, the mentality of that team. He's motivated that team. I love Lad McConkey. I think he's a fantastic receiver with so much potential. A great rookie season from him. And the Texans have not looked like a good football team most of the
yeah,
weeks that
yeah.
they've.
They struggle. They struggle to protect Stroud. That's for sure, man. I like the Chargers in this game as well. I think Herbert gets the win. Those guys are just too tough. The culture that Jim Harbaugh has built over there with the whole run mentality to kind of set up the pass. They've always been able to pass over the years, but they didn't have that strength to run the ball and kind of maintain the game. They have that now, so I like the Chargers in that game too, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, and how about the other matchup? Who you got?
The other matchup, Pittsburgh and the Ravens. It's probably going to be a tough game. It's a rivalry game for sure, but I think it's just going to be too much Lamar, man. He's playing. He's playing at a high level. Obviously, he's in the race for the MVP. He's probably in my top two, him and Josh Allen. But I kind of give the edge to Allen. But no, give me the Ravens on that one.
I 100% agree with you. Like I said, the Steelers are limping into the playoffs, and we just saw these two teams play, and the Ravens got the best of the Steelers in that one. These are two teams that see each other regularly, so it's
Yeah.
not, like you said, not going to be an easy matchup. But
Mhm.
Lamar Jackson, one, will be rested, and two, is playing out of his mind right now. Derrick Henry is playing out of his mind all season, and the defense has looked better in the last 3, 4 weeks of the season. So I think that the Ravens will get it done. Unfortunately, the Steelers just it's all about momentum and where you are
Yeah,
the last couple weeks of the season, and their momentum has come to an aggravating.
crashing down. Yeah, Russell Wilson hasn't played great either, so I don't trust him in the
They're a team
playoffs.
with a quarterback question at the end of this season as well.
I
So
think so. Yeah, and where's Justin Fields going to be next year too is a big one. But yeah, for Sunday's games, we got the Broncos Bills at 1. We have the Packers and the Eagles at 4:30, and we have the Commanders and the Buccaneers at 8. So who do you like in those games? Starting off with the Broncos at the Bills.
I've always been a fan of Bo Nix. I have been a fan of Bo Nix since he made the move to Oregon. I think he's a wonderful player. I really do. It's unfortunate that a little part of me hates him right now for keeping the Bengals out of the playoffs. But I think what Sean Payton and Bo Nix have done to give this team a resurgence back into the playoffs has been phenomenal. Been great. It's going to be the end. It's going
Yeah,
to be the end. They're going to go to Buffalo. And I think that Josh Allen and the Bills they're rolling going into the playoffs. And Josh Allen is, in my opinion, the MVP this season. And I
yeah,
think that
same here.
I don't think the Broncos have a hope or a prayer. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll be a bad game, but I think they'll go back and forth for a little while, and I think the second half the Bills will really put the stamp on it.
Gotcha, gotcha. No, see, oh man, I'm kind of iffy on this one. I think this is my sleeper pick. I think I want to go with the underdog on this one. I want to go with the Broncos. I mean, don't get me wrong, Josh Allen is still my MVP, but I don't know what it is about the playoffs and the Bills and what it is, but I just feel like they might get upset right here. Denver has a good defense, a good secondary to match up with the Bills receivers, and Josh Allen, he's just going to have one of those days, where he throws 3 touchdowns, rushes for 2, 3 more. He's going to have one of those days. And if he doesn't, I could see them getting upset. So I am going with the Broncos on that one in
Yeah,
the
the
upset.
Broncos defense has been phenomenal. They'll certainly have a lot of spies on Josh Allen. They know
Yeah.
what he's capable of in the run game and in his rushing game. So, um, like I said, I think it'll be an interesting matchup. I think the second half is going to be where it's solidified. I think it'll be really close in the first half as these two teams kind of feel each other out.
Yeah, the Bill Stadium will be loud and be rocking for sure. I'm sure it'll be snowing and snow out there, but the Broncos are used to that. So as well, they're used to the cold too. So it'll be a good matchup. But who do you have for as far as the Packers and the Eagles at the 4:30 matchup on Sunday?
You know, I think the Packers falling to the Bears and the Bears snapping their little skid, that entire game did not go the Packers' way. I think there's a big question about Jordan Love and how healthy he is.
Yeah, he's definitely a little
Meanwhile,
banged up.
meanwhile, the Eagles are rested and it's a home game for them. So I
Hmm.
think I can comfortably say that the Eagles, who have been steamrolling teams, are going to go into the playoffs well rested, hot, and the Packers not so much. So
Yeah, yeah,
it really looks like a game that the Eagles should win easily. But if you have a healthy Jordan Love, you're going to have a competitive game.
yeah. I think so too. Obviously, I got the Eagles in this one, but I do think it will be more competitive depending on the play of Jordan Love. If he plays good and he's out there balling, he's going to keep the Packers in the game. But I think it highly depends on him. Also, I think it depends on if Brandon Jacobs can get the run game going for the Packers against the tough Eagles defense. If they
I
can
think it's
kind
going
of,
to be a heavy run game for Josh Jacobs. Absolutely.
yeah, if he can get it going, it'll be tough against the Eagles defense. But if they can get some things going where he can get gash some yards and they can get some play action going, and Jordan Love plays well, I think it can be close. But give me Philly in that one for sure. Um, And then the last one for Sunday is the Commanders at the Buccaneers at 8 o'clock. How do
Yeah.
you like that one? Who you got in that one?
Um, I Baker in the playoffs is a different animal.
Hmm.
Like I told you, I'm a big fan of Mike Evans, but I love the Commanders for this game. Scary Terry and a untested Jaden Daniels. I am so excited to see them in the playoffs. It's nothing other than just a feeling. I
Uh-huh.
I love them for this game, and I think Jaden Daniels is going to surprise us once again, as he's done all year. He leads some incredible game-winning drives. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Commanders are going to do this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Man, this one is tough. This is probably the toughest one for me to pick, actually, the whole first round. But Baker Mayfield, you kind of don't know what you're going to get from him. He has played well in the playoffs in the past for the Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels, his rookie season, obviously, first year getting the smell of the playoffs. Kind of don't know how he's going to handle that pressure of being in the playoffs. But no, give me the Commanders too in that one. I think Jaden Daniels, Scary Terry, and those guys will get it done. Definitely. And the last game will be on Monday night at 8 o'clock, which will be Minnesota away against the LA Rams. That'll be the last wild card game of the weekend. So who do you have?
I mean, a week ago I would have told you it'd be the Vikings. But after the way they played yesterday, if they play like that, it's not going to be close. It's not going to be close at all. But if they're
Yeah.
able to make the appropriate adjustments and go back to playing like the team that they are, I think the Vikings will win this game. No problem.
Yeah, no, oh man, I want to choose the Vikings too so bad in this one. This one was a close one too, kind of like the Commanders and Buccaneers game for me. Minnesota is just like kind of you don't know what you're going to get. The Rams, they're not too experienced, but Stratford definitely is experienced. They're at home. I'm gonna take the Rams in this one in an upset. That'll be
Yeah,
enough.
I mean, look, Matt Stafford is well tested in the playoffs. He understands how to play well and how to perform in a playoff game. Um, Puka Nacua, since coming back from injury, has been really good, really solid. Um,
Yeah.
and the Rams do have a home field advantage. So I think that game could go either way. I want it for Sam Darnold. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I want it for them. I think
Mhm.
the Vikings have not gotten enough love for how good that they've been this season. And
Yep.
to have played like they did yesterday, now everybody is down on them again and dogging them again. And I think to go to LA to beat a Rams team that has performed well in the playoffs in the past and get a road win and meet Detroit again and have a rematch.
Yeah, that's what I
That
was
would
gonna
be,
say. If they do
yeah.
get the win, they will have to see Detroit again in Detroit. So
If the NFL is scripted, that's how it'll go.
yeah. But no, yeah, those are your games and picks from the wild card coming up this weekend. Now that the season's over, unfortunately, there has to be coach firings and changes. There's definitely been a few going on the
Mhm.
last 24 hours or such. You got the Jaguars, the Bears, the Patriots, New Orleans, the Giants, and Jets all looking for new head coaches. The Jaguars firing Doug Peterson after 3 years. Um, the Chicago Bears firing Matt Eberflus after 3 years. Gerard Mayo with the Patriots. Dennis Allen after 3 seasons with the Saints. Brian DeBoer with the Giants, 3 years as well.
Abel's staying.
Oh, is he?
Dable's staying. The Giant Mara put out a statement that he is backing Dable and Shane, the GM. Yeah, they're staying.
Oh, okay, wow. Well, sorry about that on my behalf. I
Same with
thought
the Dolphins. The Dolphins
look,
are
I
sticking
want the
with
man
Mike
going. I
McDaniel and
want
their
the man to
GM.
lose his job already. Look.
I mean, he probably should have, but they are sticking with
They're
him.
sticking with
I
him.
think the
Okay.
Giants are a team that have had so much turnover
Uh-huh.
that sometimes the more turnover that you have, the more you keep starting over. And so
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to stick it out and see what happens. They've had a little bit of a spark with add doing really well in last year's draft and adding Malik Neighbors, but also making some really bad decisions in letting Saquon go, keeping Daniel
Yeah.
Jones, having to get rid of him mid-year. So I think they're just hoping that with a top three draft pick this year, that maybe they're able to add a missing piece and
I kind of
potentially
have
move
an idea
forward.
who I think, but we're going to get to that here in a second for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue with the other firings.
And Robert Salah, he's already got fired during the season, but the Jets will be looking for a job. But it's kind of like the 3 years. It's kind of like the coaches have like a little 3 year lease, to kind of try to get things done, and then after that, it's like they're letting those guys go
Well, I think the most interesting one and the most surprising one potentially to a lot of people was the Patriots parting ways with Gerard Mayo, who
after 1 year. Yeah,
they named as the successor to Bill Belichick, and they really championed, especially with a prospect like Drake May and a lot of potential in
in the
draft
draft as
stock
well.
and things like that. But I think the biggest reason it seems, and according to a lot of the chatter online, is the fact that Mike Vrabel is potentially going to be available for them to take on. And I think that there's a lot of
Yeah,
nostalgia in him, and they want to go after him. And I don't think that Gerard Mayo got a fair shake at it,
yeah, no,
unfortunately, but it looks like that's who they're going to be going after. And so it does kind of make sense.
yeah. I think it does
Wanna
kind of
do
make
that?
sense as well. They're going to give him. He's going to have a lot to work with. They have over like 130 million dollars in salary cap, and then like you said, they have a top four pick in the draft. So they'll have a lot to work with and put pieces around. Um, um, the quarterback. What is his name?
Drake May?
Drake May. Yes, I had a brain fart for a second. Sorry, but yeah, they'll be able to put pieces around Drake May. They have some young pieces on defense. They have a nice little core, young core, but they have a lot of salary cap and room to wiggle and get that
Yeah.
team together. And Mike Vrabel's the guy I think can do that as well. So
I think he's definitely capable of that. We'll see if he's as nostalgic as the Patriots seem to be and he wants to go there because I know that there's going to be
A
options
lot
for
of
there's going to be a lot of people that want him. Um,
Mhm.
but the Patriots, I think the first thing that they're going to need to do is build support around Drake May and the offensive line. That's going to be really important for them. And Vrabel's a good guy for that.
yeah.
So
And
that could
the
be
one that I was kind of like saddened by, I knew it was coming, but was the Doug Peterson. I kind of have a soft spot for Doug. You know, he won us the Super Bowl in Philly back in 2018. So that'll always be a little soft spot for me and Doug Pete. But you kind of knew it was coming with Jacksonville. You know, it's kind of like a fire that needs to be put out down there for
And
sure.
it's interesting that they're sticking with their GM and
Yeah.
switching around the way that it all performs. I'm interested to see who they request for head coaching interviews. I know, according to Adam Schefter, that the Jets, the Bears, the Saints, they've all requested head coach interviews for Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Lions. Love
Hmm.
him as a head coach prospect. We'll see, depending on what the Lions do this season, we'll see Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, and Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, are both hot commodities in those head coaching roles. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think both of those guys might be gone, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
that's
they
just
deserve it. They've both been incredible. Ben Johnson has an incredible offensive mind. All of the
mhm.
trick plays, the fakes. He has this brilliant offensive mind, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So I think
Yeah,
a lot of teams are going to be after him. And Aaron Glenn, like I talked about in this game this yesterday against the Vikings, he made really significant adjustments in the way that they play man coverage in order to contain what they needed to contain and win a
yeah.
game.
No, that he definitely coached to play to win. He didn't coach to play to lose or to maintain. He coached to win that game and to go after Sam Darnold and put pressure on him to win the game.
Yeah, and they both
Or, yeah.
come from that Lions, Dan Campbell, the Lions front office, that entire team has that mentality, that next man up, that ankle biting, like fierce, competitive
Hmm.
underdog spirit. And I think any team would be lucky to have a Ben Johnson or an Aaron Glenn at the helm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, those
We
are the
didn't
five
touch though. We didn't touch though the Bengals letting go of Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator.
coordinator. Yes, they did. Which I
After
think
six
that
years,
was kind of good. Good move.
I don't fault Lou for the entirety of the season. I think he took
No, definitely.
far too long to simplify a defense that just needed to be simplified. And to go 15 weeks, letting everybody put up as many points as they want to on you, I think it calls for
Yeah.
some kind of change. But I do think he's a fantastic defensive mind. I don't think that he will be unemployed for long. Let's just
No, yeah, yeah, for sure. He'll definitely have other positions opening for him.
personally, you know who I like for that spot? I would love for the Bengals to go after Robert Saleh,
Robert Sala?
the former Jets head coach. He's an
Yeah,
incredible defensive mind. What he did with the Jets and their defense, and the way he brought their defense up to peak performance, would
yeah,
love to see him in that role. And I think his mentality, I think he would very much push Zach Taylor and Zach Taylor's play calling abilities, and the two of them together, an offensive mind, a defensive mind. That would be a really, really fun mix. And I'd
yeah.
love
No,
to
he's
see it.
great, and you can tell he's great too because when he was with the Jets defense was pretty solid. He put those guys and coached those guys and put them in the right position. You know, now it just seems like those guys are always out of position. And you know, Sauce Gardner, he's a great corner, but he's not really like a solid man corner. You know, he's more of his own corner. And Salah used to always put him in good positions for him to make plays and those guys to play around him. So yeah, no, that'll definitely be if the Bengals could work their magic
Yeah.
to get him, that would be a huge pickup.
What's interesting is the Jets also put in a request to interview the Broncos defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph. Another
Hmm.
really great defensive mind. Like you said earlier, the Broncos defense has overperformed this year.
Yeah,
But
they really have saved their season for
what's
real.
interesting to me is Robert Saleh was a defensive minded coach, and that's they let go of him probably prematurely this season.
I
And
think.
now a lot of the requests that they're putting in are more defensive coordinators and more defensive minded coaches. I think it's interesting that they're going back to that potentially with Aaron Rodgers maybe not playing next year, and how much of a hand in the firing of Robert Saleh did Aaron Rodgers actually have with the front office? Because it seems like they're going back to a defensive minded coach.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. That's all interesting take too as well. Aaron Rodgers, we really don't know if we watched him play his last game or not, or if we'll see him on another team. But me personally, I don't think the Jets should move on with him. I think he should either retire or maybe go try to help another team, maybe guide another young quarterback somewhere. But no, definitely.
Yeah, some other people that we haven't talked about who are up for, I think, potential head coaching jobs would be like a Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. I know that the Jets also requested Brian Grease, who's the 49ers QB coach. So these are definitely guys that are in contention for some of these head coaching jobs. Do you have anybody that you like for any specific coaching job?
Oh, let's see. I like this is going to be an odd one, but Eric Bieniemy. He was in the league. Obviously, he was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs in their Super Bowl years with Andy Reid. He was the offensive coordinator, co-offensive coordinator. Then he was like a hot candidate for a coaching job, but he never got it. Then he kind of went to college to at UCLA to kind of help coach their offense. Was the offensive coordinator there as well. But I think they let him go. But I'm not sure about a head coaching job, but I could see Eric Bieniemy definitely getting back in the NFL and being an offensive coordinator on somebody's roster here soon, for sure. But
It'll be interesting in the coming weeks to see what happens and who goes where and what's next for a lot of these guys. I do think it's great that the NFL has kind of shifted these head coaching changes and interviews to later in the season after the regular season has ended, because a lot of times the coaches that you're going to want to go after are going to be guys that are on playoff teams. So
yeah,
it's been great because they used to do it so much earlier, and now it's kind of pushed back past the end of the regular season, and these interviews aren't even allowed to happen until the last games have been played. So it's great that we're kind of allowing that to happen as a league. I think the NFL's made a
mhm,
good decision there because guys like Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Matt Nagy, they're all at the top of my list for potential head jumps up to head coaching jobs. And they're all going to be in playoff teams.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's hard. It's going to be kind of hard to interview them during playoff time. So they probably have to wait until those guys are out or get knocked out before they can even get an interview with them. So it's definitely going to be interesting. So also
Which
now with the
which team do you think is the most exciting head coaching opportunity? Do you think it's the Patriots and Drake May? Do you think it's the Bears with
100%.
Caleb Williams and DJ Moore and Roma Dunze and kind of a really good overall situation to be walking into?
To me personally, I like the Patriots situation better. I like the fact that they got so much cap room. They can bring in some players. They can bring in some offensive linemen. They can draft. They got a lot more room for you to kind of build your team around. Um,
It's a longer overhaul process, though. It's a longer rebuild.
yeah, it's definitely a longer rebuild. Me personally, as a coach, I would like that challenge more. But as far as like a coaching job where you can just come in, maybe get a few pieces in there and be in contention for playoff, I would say the Chicago Bears and the Jaguars really.
Yeah.
Um, the Jaguars, they just need a few pieces, on defense, maybe another piece on offense. They can be dangerous in their division. And along with Chicago, putting some more pieces around Caleb, maybe drafting more on defense and get that side together, and they can contend more in that tough division they're in as well.
Yeah,
So
I hope to see Ben Johnson as the Bears head coach. I think that's a great situation for him to walk into as a former offensive coordinator, as a good offensive mind. I think they have a lot of offensive weapons that need development, especially particularly Caleb Williams needs some development. And I just think it was the wrong coaching situation potentially for Caleb to walk into. I don't think that he's been tested in a way that will prove that he's a bust yet. He's not a
yeah,
bust.
no, he's not a
I think
bust at
he's
all.
the
No,
right coach, and I think potentially Ben Johnson could be the correct coach to formulate that offense and get that
yeah,
going. Because DJ Moore is phenomenal. I think Roma Dunze is a great prospect. I
hmm,
don't think that he has reached anywhere close to his rookie ceiling in his rookie
yeah,
season, and forget about his overall ceiling. So I'm very excited to see what the Bears do and if it does become a Ben Johnson head coaching job there. I think that's a fantastic opportunity for him.
yeah. No, I agree. They're definitely going to have to go offensive minded when they do decide on who their coach is for sure. And no, Ben Johnson's definitely should be at the top of their list for
Mm.
that as well. But let's talk about the draft now that the season's over. We have our official order for the draft. As far as top 10 goes, you have Tennessee getting the overall number one pick. You have the Browns at two, the Giants at three, New England at four, Jacksonville at five, Las Vegas at six, um, the Jets at seven, Carolina eight, New Orleans nine, and Chicago at 10.
Mhm.
So, how do you feel about that draft order now that it's officially?
Definitely much different than how it looked a week or two ago.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams have quarterback needs, and there are not a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. So it's going to be interesting to see which teams go into the free agency to try to go get a quarterback out of free agency versus who's going to
Mhm.
draft the two guys that I think are worth drafting in the top 10 when it comes to quarterbacks. I think potentially you might see some trades of these top couple of draft picks.
I agree too. It's going to be some movement, I think.
I think that you could see maybe a team that needs a big rebuild, like the Browns, maybe trading away that number two pick and trying to pick up some more draft picks. Um,
Hmm.
Same with a team like the Titans. You could potentially see that. So we might see some shift, but I do think that if the order stays as is, I think the Titans will likely take Cam Ward as the number one overall pick. It seems to be more of a fit for them.
Hmm.
And I think they like him as opposed to Shador Sanders, who's the other potential quarterback option. If
Yeah,
you
no,
ask
I agree.
me, and we can revisit this, timestamp this, mark it a year from now when Cam Ward and Shador Sanders have both played their rookie seasons and the regular season is over. I think Shador Sanders is more ready to play in the NFL. I think he's going to have a more successful rookie season in the
Hmm.
NFL. I think Cam Ward is the one that's being talked about as the greater prospect.
Yeah, I
I
like Shador
think
better as
people are
well.
sleeping on Shador because what he needs is media training, and he's not the best at marketing himself, but I think that he is a great quarterback and he really sees the field really well. He's good in the rush game. He's a great passer,
Yeah,
and he did it all in his first season at Colorado without an offensive line. He had no protection his first year. He was taking the most sacks, I think, of any of the top 25
he's definitely tougher than
programs.
what they give him credit for as well. Standing in that pocket, taking hits, and still throwing accurate balls downfield.
And you can say what you want about Deion Sanders and his dad being his head coach and all of that, but his dad was an NFL guy and he has truly prepared him to be in the NFL and to walk into a situation like that. I think he gets training
100%.
from a lot of NFL trainers. And if you've watched his pregame warm-ups at Colorado like I have, it is a professional warm-up.
Yeah,
The stuff that he goes through before every game. I just think he's really well equipped to be in the NFL from
yeah,
a
no.
skill
So,
standpoint. Maybe not from a media training standpoint, but from a skill standpoint.
Yeah, no, no, you make great point. I agree with you as well. Shador to me is more NFL ready than Cam, 100%. I don't think Tennessee will take Shador first
No.
overall pick. I think they'll probably take Cam as well. But so I was going to ask you about that. Do you think they're done with the whole Will Levis? Is that whole boat shipped and sailed?
I mean, I'm gonna miss the memes. But I do think that ship might have sailed. We'll
Yeah,
see. Like I said, they could definitely, they're a team that could trade away their picks. I don't think Will Levis is horrible.
no, he's not.
I think if
He's
he's got good weapons around him, he could be better than he was this year. So if they wanted to trade the pick away and wait another year or two
or
on quarterback,
what if they
because
just
this
took
is like
Travis
I
Hunter at
said,
number
I
one?
think any of the top 10 quarterbacks that were drafted last year, this year's rookies, they're
Uh-huh.
all better than the options that we have this year.
100%.
I like Drake May, Bo Nix,
Jaden
Michael
Daniels.
Penix. No, I mean like yeah, obviously Jaden Daniels and Kittle,
Yeah.
but like Penix, Bo Nix, Drake May, who were all drafted, after the top two.
Uh-huh.
I think they're all better options than Cam Ward or Shador Sanders.
Yeah.
They all proved that they were better options. Um, and it was a very loaded draft class last year, quarterback wise.
Yeah.
This year,
It's a soft
realistically,
draft class. Yeah, definitely
it's
far as
Cam Ward and
quarterbacks.
Shador Sanders, and that's it. Um,
Yeah.
for me personally, like I'm not a fan of Jaden Milrow.
I thought he should have stayed. I was definitely disappointed when I saw that he declared. I don't think he's ready.
Yeah, I mean, so it'll be interesting to see who potentially trades their pick away and waits for a better quarterback draft class because there are a lot of quarterback needs right now. And who's going to want these guys? And I think the Giants and Shador Sanders could be a good fit, and I think the Raiders and Shador Sanders could be a good fit.
Yeah.
Potentially
Those are
either
the
of
two
those
teams
teams
I
that
see him going to in my
want to
mock draft.
trade up for him. I think they could. The Giants maybe at 3 could potentially get Shador Sanders to fall if the Browns decide to go Travis Hunter and don't trade away their pick. The
Hmm.
Browns also are going to have quarterback needs. It looks like Deshaun Watson it's unclear when he'll be available again. There were setbacks in his Achilles recovery. That was
Uh-huh.
as well. And it doesn't look like DTR is the guy. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Jameis Winston's
Jameis
the
Winston.
guy. I wish it was. I want
Yeah.
him on my TV
Yeah.
all the time,
I
but
know you're rooting for Jameis.
I love Jameis. He's the best. Oh, but he is not the best quarterback. But
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
best to be on your TV. So I think
No,
the Browns have a big question mark on what they want to do because they have so many holes to fill.
no, definitely. You definitely touched on some good points as far as the draft. It like you said, it can go either way, man. As far as teams doing movement and stuff like that. As far as the Titans having the number one pick, it's really up to them as far as like whether or not they're going to give Will Levis another shot, or like you said, draft a quarterback. Maybe they give Will Levis a shot and maybe take Travis Hunter number one overall. You never know. Then that way, Cleveland will take Cam Ward, and then Giants take Shador at 3. I mean, it can go so many ways. Or the Raiders can move up possibly to trade with Tennessee for that number one pick to go get their guy um, for the Giants because there's a lot of rumors that the Giants are like big on Shador and they're trying to go after him. I'm not sure
It does
how.
look like that they're big on Shador.
Yeah.
When Shador was in town with Travis Hunter for the Heisman ceremony, there
Uh
was a
huh.
video out there of him throwing passes to Malik Neighbors. I think that
Yep.
would be a fantastic connection.
Definitely.
But I could also see the Giants passing on a quarterback this year and going to a free agency quarterback, maybe a veteran quarterback, and
Hmm.
waiting on Arch Manning and trading
Yeah.
up for Arch Manning.
Yeah. No, definitely. I can see that too. Yeah, for sure. There's big buzz around Arch Manning, even though he hasn't necessarily played a full season of football yet. But there's definitely a
Yeah.
big buzz going on around him when it's time for him to get drafted for sure.
Yeah, but I think if it stands as is, get into the later round picks, I think the Patriots, like I said, they should absolutely draft an offensive lineman in their first
Uh-huh.
round pick. I like Will Campbell out of LSU, an offensive tackle.
Yep.
He's
I like Will Campbell
fantastic.
too.
Think he's great.
I
Um,
like Kelvin Banks out of Texas
yeah,
too.
yeah. And they definitely need to draft around Drake May. So
Yeah.
that's a great pick for them. Like you said, Calvin Banks, another great choice. If he falls, I think he's a great choice for the Bears as well at number 10.
Uh-huh. I
Uh,
think the Bears will get one of those linemen, Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks. They need to, whichever one falls, but I
one
definitely
one
think.
of them will fall. One of them will fall to 10.
And New Orleans too. New Orleans needs a quarterback, so they might be curious to move up and
they
go
might be curious to move up.
or get one in free agency
They
as
may also
well.
go after a free agency quarterback. It's gonna be really interesting. I mean, who's willing to pay for somebody like Sam Darnold? Are the Vikings gonna want to keep him if he plays well in the playoffs and he becomes worth a lot? What are teams willing to pay for somebody like Sam Darnold who now has proven himself that with enough weapons he can go out and be a
Effective, yeah.
playoff quarterback, right?
Mhm.
So that's a possibility. The Vikings could also look to trade away JJ McCarthy and get
Yeah.
draft picks for
And
JJ
then
McCarthy.
where's Justin Fields going to be next year too?
Where is
So
Justin Fields going to go? Um, yeah, you have a lot of really interesting free agencies coming up. So you could definitely look at some of that. I think the Colts are also a quarterback question. I'm not sure what they're.
yeah, Anthony Richardson. I mean, I think they're going to give him another shot, another year, but this was going to be like the make or break year before because his money is coming up soon too. So this will be these next couple of years for him. At least next year will be a make or break year as far as that goes. As far as the Colts moving on with him in the future or not. But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
To keep going down the line, I think if the Jags stay at number 5, I think the Jags are in a situation where I think they have their quarterback with Trevor Lawrence. I think they're still waiting, to see something from him. They have Brian Thomas Jr., so they have some good offensive weapons. I think they go probably best man up defensively, and that's potentially like a Mason Graham from Michigan. Uh, um, I could see that for them.
yeah,
The Raiders after losing Devontae Adams, should potentially go after a wide receiver like Teteroa McMillan from Arizona. That'd be a good option for them.
mm-hmm,
The Jets, I would love to see them add defensive depth with Sauce Gardner. So like Will Johnson would be a great pick for them. He's out of Michigan.
yeah,
Panthers have found their guy in Bryce Young and they've found some offensive momentum. So for them, I could see them drafting an edge rusher. So like Abdul Carter,
uh-huh,
those would be good options for them. Same with the Saints. I mean, the Saints are going to have a quarterback question. But if they stay at 9, I think they're going to have to go after a free agency quarterback. So I could see them going after the other edge rusher, whichever one doesn't go to the Panthers.
yes,
And then, like we said, at number 10, I think whichever offensive tackle falls will either Will Campbell or Calvin Banks will end up with the Bears. I think that's, if it stands as is, how I see the draft going.
gotcha, yeah, yeah. I'll give a quick review of my 10. Tennessee. Obviously, they can move up or down, but I'm gonna take them taking not a non-quarterback. I'll have them taking Travis Hunter in that pick. The Browns, I see them taking Cam Ward in that spot. I think that'll be a good fit. The Giants, obviously, Shador Sanders. New England, um, I think they could either take an offensive lineman to help May, or like you said, a receiver. I think that's what you said with Tatoa McMillan. out of Arizona State.
Oh,
Uh,
I said Tetaroa for the Raiders if they don't
okay,
pick up for a quarterback.
but yeah, New England, I can see them getting him.
Yeah, New England, I think, has to build around Drake May. I think they have to go offensive line in their first.
Yeah, either offensive line or at least a weapon, receiver or something to go around them, or possibly even I know it's kind of high, but a running back, like an Ashton Genty maybe. He's big. He's top on the big board. For the Jaguars, I think they need to go offensive lineman 100% to help protect um, Lawrence out there, and or either go defense with a Jalen Walker, a linebacker, or James Pierce, the edge rusher from Tennessee. The Raiders, definitely think they need to go quarterback. I think they need to move up, but in the spot they're in now, I'll see them taking the best available, which will probably be like a Will Johnson or Mason Graham. The Jets definitely need to go defense, in my opinion. So I see them getting a linebacker or maybe an offensive lineman. Josh Simmons from Ohio State is up there big, or Mikal Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia. Um, who am I on? Carolina. Definitely need O line to protect the quarterback. They also need weapons, more weapons for Bryce out there. So I could see them maybe taking another receiver or an O lineman as well. The Saints definitely need to go quarterback, find one in the free agency, and they definitely need defense. I think they need a defensive back. So I think I'm high on Will Johnson right there in that spot as well. Um, Maybe even a Trey Harris at wide receiver, just somebody on the outside to help Chris Olave next year on the other side. And for the Bears, like you spoke on, definitely O lineman. They need to go Will Johnson or Banks from Texas. If not, they need to definitely go defense, linebacker or edge rusher if they don't go one of those two things. So, no, that's all we got to talk about as far as the draft.
There's
We're going to,
definitely a lot of need and not a lot to work with necessarily
yeah,
when it comes to offensive players in this draft.
yeah. So being strategic with your team is definitely going to be a big thing in this draft as far as picks and availability of players for sure. Just before we get out of here, let's touch on the games coming up for the weekend on the college football semifinals. You got Penn State, Notre Dame in the Capital One Orange Bowl, and you got Ohio State, Texas in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. Who do you like in those games to move on to the national championship?
I mean, I think we touched on it last week. We said that that Ohio State Oregon game was going to be really telling.
Yeah,
That whoever won that game is going to be your national champion. So I think Ohio State will beat Texas. I think that's definitely doable for them after the
yeah,
way they performed against Oregon. They are cruising, and I think they cruise right to a national championship. So that's awesome for them. Awesome for for Brian Day. I think that's great on that front. The Notre Dame Penn State game is definitely going to be, I think, the more competitive game. Penn State looked like they were going to
yeah. I think
lead the
so.
path to the national championship, but I loved the way that Notre Dame played against Georgia. I really do. And for whatever reason, they're always doubted. I feel like there's a lot of doubt on Notre Dame, and there's always a question of quarterback the last couple of years. But Riley Leonard is kind of that guy. I mean, he's got a little bit of dog in him. The
Yeah, he
way that
does.
he goes for some of these first downs when he's rushing, like when he's on the move,
Yeah.
he's hurdling guys. He's out here throwing his body around.
Uh
And
huh.
Marcus Freeman and Riley Leonard, they both have the dog in them. And I could see an upset happening. I
Yeah, and the team sees that and they follow behind that too. So. The
I could
team.
definitely see an upset happening. Notre Dame gets a lot of hate because they play unaffiliated. They kind of mess around with their schedule, whatever their
Mhm.
strength of schedule is. But I think playing the way they did against Georgia, for me, solidified that they belong there and that they could go beat Penn State.
Yeah, no, I agree. Notre Dame, Penn State, they have a nice offense. Drew Aller, the running back, Singleton. They got a decent defense. Abdul Carter, they're worried about whether or not he'll be healthy or not for the game. He's their best defensive player. But I just like Notre Dame, man. They're solid defensively. They run the ball well. They don't throw it too great, but they do enough. And like you said, Riley Leonard's really the X factor for that team. I like Marcus Freeman and what he's doing there. Obviously, Ohio State alum. But yeah, give me Notre Dame in the upset in that game. Um, Ohio State, like you said, we talked about it. Whoever won between them and Oregon pretty much was going to win it all. So I got Ohio State beating Texas. It'll be a tough battle at first, but I see Ohio State kind of pulling away in the second half. Give me Ohio State in that game to face Notre Dame and give me Ohio State winning it all.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I don't think Texas really even deserved to win that game against Arizona
they
State.
did it.
So
I didn't think so.
I think that Ohio State is gonna potentially have another statement win heading into the national championship game. And
Yeah,
I think they can beat either Notre Dame or Penn State, but I do think it's going to be Notre Dame.
yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and it's crazy because Ohio State to me has had the toughest road as far as the playoff. They had to
Absolutely.
play Tennessee round one. Um, then they're getting ready to play Texas. Then they had to play Oregon. So it's just like they're playing the tougher teams and getting it done and looking the best out of all the teams. So I think they're going to pull it off, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a party in my city for sure if that happens.
You know what's one more piece of drama that we haven't talked about that I do think we should hit on, and is we're going back into the NFL for a minute here, but Tyreek Hill.
Yes,
He had something to say after
yes.
Miami's loss to the Jets.
Hmm.
Do you think he's leaving? I mean, he kind of said, "I'm out. I'm doing what's best for me. I'm out." Do we think that he goes somewhere else?
I think so, man. I think Tyreek always had a problem with like he's a great player, but he's just not a mature player in my mind. He's kind of got the selfish bug
Well, he
going
has
on.
32 kids. How is he not mature?
I don't know.
Come on.
But yeah, no, you got a good point. But Kansas City, they didn't offer him the most money, but they gave him a decent offer to stay. And he went from a team that was winning Super Bowls to a team that wasn't winning Super Bowls and complaining about winning. It's like, you should have took the pay cut, not worried about the money so much to stay on a team where you have a solid quarterback that's going to get you the ball and you're going to be in a content every year. So
Right. Well, that's what I thought was interesting about his statement is he was saying, I'm going to do what's best for me and my family and this not. It's like,
yeah, the
bro,
selfish
you got
bug.
your bag. You went to Miami to get your bag. You
Uh,
left a Super Bowl contending an every year Super Bowl contending team
hmm
for the bag, for your family, for
a,
your
a team that's looking to three-peat for the first time ever.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that there's probably a lot of regret on his part for doing that because I
Uh-huh.
do think that winning mattered to him more than he thought it did. And more,
Did, yeah.
he got greedy. He saw the dollar signs and he got greedy and he
He
wanted
saw
to
he got
go
greedy. He saw
be a high
Miami.
paid receiver. Um, and if you were doing it, if you're doing it for the bag and you're doing it for your family, you would stay at Miami.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, no, it's like now that he got his bag, it's like, okay, now it's time to go try to win again. And it's like, hey,
Think the Chiefs would take him back?
that's a good question. They probably definitely could use him for sure.
It's like going
Uh,
back to an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend. Like, do you think that they would want him back? He's talented enough that I think they might.
yeah, not under the money. He'll definitely have to take that cut for sure.
Yeah.
They won't offer him the same money they probably did in recent before, but yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And like I said, your emotions are high after the game. When you and then you don't make the playoffs, and you're watching your old team be the number one seed with the bye. It's kind of
You know
hitting
what
you
could be
where it
really
hurts.
interesting here, Big Red? If the Raiders do trade up for Shador, if they go after Tyreek,
Yeah,
you add that piece because
with Brock
they're
Bowers,
missing a wide receiver because they lost Devontae Adams, and you look at like a Raiders team that has Shador Sanders, Brock
Brock.
Bowers, Tyreek Hill, and then on the defensive end you have Max Crosby.
Yeah,
That becomes
yeah. You
a
come a
really
good
good
team.
team.
Yeah, yeah. You become competitive immediately.
That becomes a really good team. And I do think if the Raiders stay with Antonio Pierce, he has a very good relationship with Deion Sanders. And I think I could see them trading up for Shador.
Yeah,
And with Tom Brady being, a part owner of that team, I think that's somewhere that Deion would like to see his son go.
yeah. And
The
Shador is
potential
signed to Brady's TB12 too. So
Right. And then you have Brock Bowers, you have Max Crosby, you go out, you go get a top wide receiver, whether that's
mhm.
Tyreek Hill or somebody else, you turn your team into a playoff contending team. And then I would sit here, in August and say, hey, that could be a sleeper pick for a playoff team.
Yeah, you had a couple little draft pieces here, a couple defensive pieces here and there. Yeah, the feeling.
You do
Yeah,
that right.
they definitely compete out there in the AFC West for sure. They
That's
definitely could.
interesting. That's interesting. Hey, Raiders, if you're looking for for somebody
Hey,
in your
yeah,
business mind, I think we
go.
just put it together for you.
Yeah, go talk to Tyreek's agent, Rosenthal, and yeah, get it worked out, get it done.
That'd be
It'll
an
definitely be
interesting
great.
move. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely interesting words from Tyreek Hill there, and I think he might be done in Miami.
yeah, I think so. After those harsh words, I think it's time for them to move on. I don't think he could go back to the team after that. I mean, he could, but it'll be some feathers ruffled for sure. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate you again, Tony. It was a great show. We'll be back next week to kind of cover some more things NFL, some more things college football, and whatever hot topics come up throughout the week. Um, it's been a pleasure doing the show. We had some great conversation for
Yeah.
sure, and looking forward to next week.
I'll see you next week right here.
All right, guys. Well, that concludes the show, the He Said, She Said Sports Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Big Red, along with the host, Tony, and we will see you guys next week. Love and peace.